All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to everybody watching us on all these social media platforms that we have available to us to be able to have very important discussion today with our MDC students that are juniors and seniors. So this is Mental Health Awareness Month. May is Mental Health Awareness Month. So we've been doing different activities all month long. And we want to wrap up this month with you guys, the most important piece of the puzzle when it comes to mental health and what we do at Miami-Dade County Public Schools. So I want to quickly, first I want to thank our sponsors, because without them we wouldn't be able to do this today. Chick-fil-A for providing our lunch we're going to have after. Also Herf Jones and Citrus Digital, which is helping us live stream this today. So thank you to all of our sponsors. Give them a round of applause for making mental health an important topic in our community. I also want to thank Beatrice Martinez, who is a psychologist and part of our team here today to talk with you all. I've done many things with Beatrice, with parents. We've done lives together. And so we thought it would be wonderful to invite her as well to hear from you. She's also works with the district to help students and give counseling to students. So we love that she's here today, and I'll give her a chance to introduce herself as well. But before we go to Beatrice, I would like for each of you to please quickly introduce yourselves, what grade you're from, and what school you represent. We will start right here on this side of the table.
Right. My name is Martina Restrepo. I'm in 9th grade, and I go to JC Bermudez.
Wonderful.
My name is Victoria. I'm in 11th grade, and I go to Ronald Reagan.
Good morning. My name is Cal Fernandez Caldera. I go to SAS West, and I'm in 11th grade.
Good afternoon. My name is Mike Magranid. I'm a junior and I go to SAS West.
Good afternoon. My name is Andrea Pita. I'm an 11th grader and I go to SAS West.
Good afternoon. My name is Mia Lescano. I'm an 11th grader and I go to SAS West.
Good afternoon. My name is Adam Rodriguez. I go to Miami Springs Senior High.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ms. Casa and I'm the Medical Academy teacher at Miami Springs Senior High School.
Good afternoon. My name is Matthew Diaz and I'm a junior and I go to Miami Springs Senior High School.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Brittany Walken. I'm in the 11th grade and I'm from Miami Springs Senior High.
Hi everyone, my name is Maria Lorenzo. I'm a junior and I go to Miami Springs Senior High.
Hello, my name is Sophia Hobson. I'm a 10th grader and I go to JC Bermudez Senior High School.
Hello, I'm Ms. Sotomayor and I'm the trust counselor from Reagan Senior High School.
Hi everyone, my name is Frank Arias and I'm an 11th grader in Ronald Reagan.
Good afternoon, I'm Nicole Marcano. I'm an 11th grader in Ronald Reagan, Durham Senior High.
Hi, I'm Valeria Quintero. I go to Ronald Reagan and I'm on the 11th grade.
Awesome. Guys, if you can, just speak up a little bit more, just so the microphones pick us up and everyone can hear us. Good? All right, Beatrice, go ahead and introduce yourself and we will get started.
So my name is Beatrice Martinez Peñalver. I love when they give me a higher degree and they say a psychologist. I'm a psychotherapist.
Sorry.
I didn't
you're my psychiatrist.
But I'm a psychotherapist. I'm a master's level mental health counselor. And I've been in the field of mental health for 30 years. So it's a long time, guys, I know. And I have a community mental health center. It's called Healthy Connections. Healthy Connections is one of the 12 providers of mental health for the district, for Miami-Dade County Public School District. So we have a lot of clinicians in different schools, and students also come to our office. So we're very happy to be here, and I am very honored to be invited here to be with Christy again, talking to all of you.
Thank you, Beatrice. And I actually just realized I didn't introduce myself. So I'm Christy Fraga. I'm your school board member for District 5. Some of you may have seen me at your schools before. I know I've come into some of your classes. And I really appreciate you guys taking the time to come here and be able to speak to us and be a part of this. I don't think this has ever been done before. So it was something that I really wanted to do for the first time for Mental Health Awareness Month. And with that, we will jump right in. So I want to ask you guys, what to you is mental health? Anybody want to opine on what mental health means to you? Do you want them to grab the microphone?
The other students.
Okay, yes. So does anybody want to come and tell us, what does mental health mean to you? Yes? Perfect. Grab the microphone, that way it's loud and clear.
Hi. Mental health to me, in a word or in a way, is just making sure that I'm focusing on myself inertly and making sure that I'm handling all the things in my life accordingly without having to push myself to the limit or past my limit, because the minute you go over that or you push yourself too far, you start to feel mentally exhausted and you're doing way too much. It's always good to keep your mental health or keep track of your mental health and try and make sure that you yourself are okay. It's all about not just you yourself working on yourself, but also accepting help from others as well. You can't always do it alone. Trying to help yourself all the time is also a challenge, and it's, I guess I'm trying to find the right words to say it. It's just something that you. Sorry, I'm really having trouble finding the words.
You're doing great.
You just have to focus on yourself and making sure you know what your limits are, making sure you know what you are doing, and making sure you're taking on the right amount of responsibility that you can take and not overworking yourself. And
Awesome. Would anybody else like to share what mental health means to you? Yes.
I think mental health has a lot to do with continuously growing and learning how to do things the right way, learning what your limits are, and especially learning how to react to things we cannot control sometimes. I think a big part of how you can maintain yourself up there, happy, healthy, is learning that not everything is up to us, and being able to learn how to react to that and just be able to do the best we can without necessarily letting other aspects affect us directly.
Okay, awesome. Anybody else like to share? Come on, one more. How about one of the ladies?
I'll share.
Okay, great.
So I guess to add on to what they said, I think mental health is as important as physical health. If something is wrong with you mentally, you might feel stressed more than usual or less unmotivated. Just like when you're physically unhealthy, maybe you'll feel sick. It's just as important, and it's very beneficial to try to keep a balance and be yeah.
Be happy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. I think that's great, and it's so important, and you've said it very clearly. Mental health is as important as your physical health. Sometimes we're so worried about our physical health, and our physical health may be deteriorating almost because of our mental health. I would love to hear what Beatrice would describe mental health as, because
So
that's very
you guys
interesting.
mentioned some wonderful points, right? And I think one of the greatest things here would be how we're able to, the skills and the tools and the tips that we have, so we know that we're able to manage whatever stressors and things and changes are around us. I think that is really how we really would be able to measure our mental health or our mental fitness. You talked about physical fitness, where there's mental fitness also, right? We should have tools and exercises and different curriculums or programs where we can actually get very specific things that if I'm in A, B, or C situation or challenge, what are the inner ability, strength, tools that I have that I can bring here into this situation so I can manage it well. I think that would be one of the most important things when you're talking about your mental health.
Does anybody have any questions about that? How she described that? No? Okay. So here's another question that I have for you on. This is, I guess, not too long ago I was in your position, I want to think. Right? It's not too long ago that I was, a student, I was there in your place, but it was a different world. It really was. It was a different world when I was sitting in your position. Social media just started. We were just starting to connect with the rest of the world. Sure, we had, email and chats and things like that, but it wasn't as accessible as it is to you all, right? This connection of the world, but it's such a false connectivity, right? Because it's only the connection that they want us to see, not the connection of a real bond and a real relationship. Tell me a little bit how you guys feel about social media and what that does for your mental health.
I can talk about it.
Thank you.
So I feel that social media is something that can be viewed depending on the perspective that you view it, but it can be viewed as something positive or something negative because that accessibility also gives us a different view of the world as a whole, and it gives us access to a lot of information that typically we wouldn't have if we didn't have social media. However, from the standpoint of mental health, social media is like a poison to your mental health in general because it is something that is an illusion. So I like to think that social media isn't real because oftentimes a lot of the things that you see on there can be misinformation, or they can be pictures that were edited, or it gives you a very false illusion of what a person's life is really like. They can look really happy in their posts and excited, or they can look as though they're a part of a lot of things when in reality their life isn't like that and they just want to appear that way. I think it's a great tool for a lot of people that want to portray an image or live in that world that they want to feel better about themselves, and that's their way of doing it, but it's not a healthy coping mechanism. And the time that we spend on social media ultimately is time that takes away from you forming those real connections and those real bonds that you want to have, and living more in the present and not just so much on the screens that we spend. I at least I think 8 or 9 hours a day on my phone. And that's a lot of time, but most of the time I'm reading. So it's not like I'm on social media all the time, but people who do spend excessive amount of time swiping on TikTok or looking at Instagram Reels are people that are living in this digital world, not the one that we actually are a part of.
That was excellent, excellent. I could have said it better myself. How many of you have used, I'm going to go through right now, how many of you have used the tracker on your phone that shows you how much time you spend on each application? Has that affected you when you take a look at that at the end of the day of how much time you've spent on social media? Yes? Right, it's a little alarming, right? Hey, it's happened to me. Okay, I'm not gonna share my age, but it's happened to me where I'm like, I think I've been very productive throughout the day, and I spend a lot of time on my phone. Honestly, most of the time it's on productivity. Good, right? Because if not, I wouldn't be able to get through it. But there has been days where I noticed that right after productivity, it's social media. And I'm like, what am I doing with that time in my day? I could be spending it with my son. I could be spending it at the gym. I could be spending it reading. I could be spending it doing something else. So I encourage you all to activate that on your phones, just to have an idea, of what it is that you're spending your time on. I'm gonna come to you, and then I'll come right to you because I think you have something to say as well. Awesome.
I think overall, as someone who uses like social media, it is such a good creative outlet for a lot of people who don't have that kind of platform to be able to share what they love doing. I know a lot of people like art, music, whatever, and a lot of musicians, artists, whatever, have been able to actually create great platforms off of, but it is, as was said earlier, a poison. And I think a big thing is that you become so dependent on like people liking you and this like image of yourself. It's like
the gratification.
Gratification, absolutely. It's like, and I know this because I make content. It's like, you have something pick up, and then you want that to pick up over and over again, and you'll start putting so much effort into it. And sometimes, because that's how social media works, sometimes the stuff you put effort in doesn't get that traction that you usually get, and it makes you miserable. And then sometimes you want to give up. Sometimes and so it really does affect you. Sometimes you can make relationships on there that can also affect you. Like it's you have this really bad relationship with like gratification and just wanting to be liked online that would not happen as easily in real life.
Yeah, so that's great. And so I want to expand on that a little bit more too. And I think this is a topic that even for parents, it's something we want to understand, because we don't understand it because we weren't a part of it like you guys are, right? It's part of my life now, especially as a public figure. It's a big part of my life, right? But it's not a part of my life like it is for you. And we need to understand that, to understand how we help, right? But I do want to pick up on something you said that I talk about a lot when I go to career days at school, is that social media is a tool that can help in your career. Like, it is a tool. You need to use it for you, not let it use you. Right? Like, you need to learn how to use it for the benefits of what it can create, not allow it to do that to you, right? And that's a hard balance to keep. I think it takes a really strong mental health and understanding of oneself and acceptance of yourself to be able to do that. But I think it's first acknowledging what that poison is, right? Because if the poison is in front of you, do you drink it?
No.
but are you forced to drink it? Right? And so it's almost like this toxic environment that we're forced to deal with because it is a very real part of society, right? And so like I would love to boycott it, but I can't, right? It's literally we're using it right now to do something good, right? It's a perfect example. We're using it right now to do something good for us. We're using it to our advantage, and we're using it to be productive in society and to help people. So it has a really, I think that the platform itself could be very productive and very helpful. I think it's about the content we create. And I think it's about how we use that content to help others. So I'd love to hear what you have to say.
Oh yeah, what I was gonna say is that it's very addicting, and since it's like never ending.
Well, they actually, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but they actually compare it to like gambling. You know, the dopamine you get when you hear like if any of you have ever studied a little bit of psychology, and I took psychology in high school, and I took a little bit in college at the university because I've always liked the psyche, right? And obviously it's why I like politics, because it's really just it's mental, it's understanding people, right? And so they compare it to that adrenaline rush you get when you get a like to gambling. That's crazy to me. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to say that it's like really addicting, and since it's like never ending, there's always more and more and more, and if you're exposed too much to that, it can have a negative effect on you. So it's really finding that balance between like scrolling and like watching things to like using it positively and not letting it deteriorate you as like a person or like what you believe in.
Yeah, for sure.
Say one last thing.
Absolutely. Say as much as you want.
I think that like the safest way to use social media is to be aware of what it can do and what it actually is and the things it can cause in your life. Because nowadays with like TikTok and Instagram, it puts stuff on your screen that it knows you like. And it creates this reality and this bubble of, and it makes you feel like you're somewhere else or you're seeing something else. You're like in another reality. And it's a hard pill to swallow when you look around yourself in like actual society and your school and your work or your family. And it's different from when you're looking at your phone. It's a completely different thing. You can be seeing on TikTok specifically, people that have your same views or your same values, people that like your same music, people that like your favorite celebrities. And you create this reality that surrounds you that is completely different to what it actually is outside of it. And I think the best way to not get addicted to that false reality that social media creates is to be aware that that is not the absolute reality and that there's more outside.
Yes, very good. Beatrice, would you like to add anything?
Yes, I would like to definitely add a couple things and to follow a few of your ideas. So one of the things that I was very happy actually to be invited, it was because it was real, right? I see you and I see Andrea talking and I see her face and I see her energy, right? It's very different than if we had the bunch of little squares on
and that's
TV,
my next part.
So we are wired to be humanly with other people.
We feed off of each other's energy.
When it takes away this contact, it's harming us, okay? We need to understand when she was talking about gratification, it's instant gratification, what we're getting, right? It's an instant gratification, and it does give us biochemically, changes in our body. So there is a shoot up of a serotonin or dopamine, these happy things. It's like, oh my God, I like her. And you feel really good. And then what? You want another one, right? And then you're looking for that other one. And then you spend then hours and hours looking for that next little rush or dopamine or serotonin or some happy hormone in your body. And then the addiction comes in. And then when you're addicted to it, then you're not doing what we're doing right now, right? You're meeting somebody, hey, let's go jogging, let's do a homework together. We lose this connectivity, which is extremely important to us. So yes, there is wonderful things in social media, and I think when we get educated into the things that how can this benefit me and how can this really hurts me, I think we make a lot more intelligent decisions around it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Great points, Beatrice. So that leads me to my next question about the pandemic. What we experienced the last 2 years, basically. How did that affect any of you? Did you change dramatically as a person? And wow, okay, so there's a lot of conversation about this. So let's allow somebody who hasn't spoken before. I saw your hand go up over there. Let's have somebody who hasn't, and then we're going to get around because I know that this is a topic Tell us, what did this do to you? How did you feel? What were the benefits? What were the negatives?
I think it kind of changed as the pandemic went on. Like in the beginning, I was definitely like, oh my God, 2 weeks off of school. Like I don't have to go, you know, I can just stay at home. But then as it kind of progressed, it kind of got to this thing of when am I going to see my friends again? I haven't seen a lot of people more except for like my family. And so I kind of was at that point craving some affection from not only just my family, but like my friends as well. So when the school year started and it was just online, I kind of didn't get that same feeling that I would have gotten like my freshman year, that where I got to see my friends and I got to see new faces. I didn't make any friends last year because I didn't talk to anyone unless it was like a breakout room, and even then there would be moments of silence. And you know, over time, I kind of got used to this like feeling of like loneliness almost, that I kind of depended on my phone and I depended on texting my friends or even meeting some people online that I don't even talk to anymore because they don't give me, they didn't give me like what I was craving that my in-person friends kind of give me. And like I depended on social media a lot, and I depended on just like even like the tiniest like sliver of affection that I could get, I would crave because I didn't get that from my friends or like teachers. And you know, everyone was so focused on their own lives and making sure that they got their grades in my friend group. So it kind of got to a point where I was like, you know, I don't know how to like word it. Like, I'm kind of like, you know, like a little struggling on that, but it's like, I don't know how to put it in words. But it affected me negatively, but also gave me positive because I got time to focus on myself in the beginning. But then I lost that time with school and the prolonging of it. And now at the end of the year, last year, I kind of was like, why do I have to go anymore? It's so easy not to go to school last year, but I still went. So that's like kind of how.
Good. Thank you for sharing. Who else would like to share?
I would like to say something. So personally for me, I had like a lot of self-doubt with my just intelligence, though I am like, you know, I'm confident in the work that I do, but online I didn't have that like sense of gratification. It was just a grade in the grade book or just this percentage on teams or whatever the case was. So I didn't have that sense of community in order to just converse with one another about like an exam or how I felt about a certain work assignment, or I was very apprehensive about asking the teacher questions just in general. I was apprehensive about clicking the mute button or clicking the mute button in order for me to speak, like the microphone button. It was very difficult for me to just speak to anyone. It was very hard to socialize. So, yeah.
And do you think that you've now kind of come out of that? Or you think it was just being online, or do you think it affected you socially in general, if you don't mind me asking?
That lack of socialization, it did affect me, like, when I came back to school. It was still difficult for me to, you know, get out of my shell and kind of speak to other people and make new friends and find other people that had the same interests, because it was just, you know, the apprehension just was lingering all the time.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you're here now.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Anyone else like to share? Yes. Okay, so we'll just come down the road, because I think this is important. There you go, and then we'll go that way.
So I didn't realize how social I really was until I was like confined to a Zoom call where it was just like this little box where it like felt like she was saying, when I had to unmute myself, it was like I was more reluctant to do it instead of just like speaking up in a classroom. So I felt like I am a pretty social person, but in that atmosphere and that like being in like a Zoom call, it was just so different that I wasn't used to, you know, being in that scenario. So I like kind of realized like, oh wow, I really like kind of miss those friendships that I have. And I guess it also kind of grows your gratitude, because it makes you realize like, wow, all these things that we have, we're so blessed to have them.
Took for granted.
So I felt like that was something I learned in a positive way, and then the negative was kind of just like not having those relationships, you know, grow. And I mean, once everything came back normal, then things started changing, so for the better.
Thanks for sharing.
I want to say something.
Sure, go ahead.
I'm sorry.
No, please don't be sorry.
I just want to say I consider myself a pretty social person. Like I care about meeting friends.
You're kidding. I'm just kidding.
And I remember that just sitting in front of my computer, I didn't want to let go of that aspect of making friends. And I remember having to like message on like the Zoom thing. Oh, like, oh, write down your Instagram so we can like trying to make friends through Zoom was a real headache. And also down to relationships with my teachers, because I really care about like creating meaningful relationships with my teachers, and that was really difficult. I don't think any of my teachers from last year remember me. Like if I saw them around the school, I wouldn't be able to go up to them and be like, hey, how are you? Because there weren't like really any bridges built at all. So that was really hard.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. How about you, ladies? You don't want to share? Yeah.
No, I just want to add to the gratitude thing and the whole motivation thing. Sorry, I'm really nervous.
No, don't be. You're in a safe place here.
The gratitude thing, like, it was really hard to make friends. So I feel like everyone last year got into like this type of shell, and like how important it is to like go out, even if I don't consider myself a social person at all, and
you missed it.
Yeah. Now that I went to school this year, I realized how important it is to like go out
to socialize.
Yeah.
Be with others.
Yeah. We're not meant to be alone. We're not.
No, and I realized
beings
that
that are
last year.
yeah, we're not beings that are meant to. And there's some people are more introvert than others, right? Some are more extrovert, but we were not created to be alone. There's very few species I think that were created to be alone. So what we're doing right now, this connection, which is what we were kind of talking about before, you feed off of each other. Like recently, I was also invited to a group meeting. They're like, well, maybe we could do it on Zoom. And I go, nope, I ain't doing it. I refuse. I protest. I will not do a Zoom because I'm feeding off of your energy right now. And that motivates me and how I express myself. And like, there's not that connection on Zoom. We're having a conversation, but does that conversation mean anything? Because we're not really, and I think that's where the learning loss came, right? Because you were there and you were listening, but were you learning? Because when you learn off of everybody around you. So if you have students who are not willing to participate, who would normally participate and add to that conversation, that maybe someone who doesn't participate as much, just because they're a little more shy, learns from, then that you feed off of that energy, and look, you spoke. And so that is something that, I get goosebumps, really, because it is that energy that we crave. And as much as we think we want to be alone and you may need that time, right? Everybody needs that time every once in a while to like, I need that time, where I'm like, I tell my husband, I'm like, take the child and go. Just go to a park or something. I need like 10 minutes to just, I don't know, sit and have my glass of, or my cup of coffee, my cup of coffee and my Netflix. And I need that time for me. And that's okay. And that's normal too. But I enjoy and I crave this more than anything else. Who else would like to share over here? Yes.
I want to share that during the pandemic, I was like really happy because I got to be alone. But at some point, it was just like complete isolation. And then when it came to like, we could go out, but with a mask, I was really nervous, extremely nervous, like social anxiety to the max. And then like...
Can I ask you a question? The social anxiety, was it a fear of being of the pandemic, or because you didn't know how to
It was mostly like talking to a cashier. Like talking to a cashier was like, no. I would tell my mom to talk for me. And then Zoom started, and then I got to meet my friends, and we made a group chat for the class, and then we started hanging out. We were like, let's get out. And then that's when I realized when hanging out with your friends is so important for you. Like, it's group therapy at this point. And talking to them is like, I isolated myself for a long time. I wouldn't talk to anyone, not my brother, not my mom, not anyone. I would go eat and that's it. And then meeting them was such a relief because going out was so important. So yeah.
Awesome. Nope, I think we want to share over here and then we'll jump that way.
Oh,
yes.
No, if she wants to go first.
Sorry.
I think like one big thing was one of the biggest issues with being alone is like, I know for me, I was alone in my room all day. I would go out to eat. I wouldn't even eat with my parents. I'd just eat. And I think one of the biggest things is because I couldn't do so many of my hobbies, which required me to be with people, I started having more time to myself, and more time to myself gave me more time to overthink, and more time to give me overthink. I was miserable, and I was already struggling like pre-pandemic. So like I was in the pandemic and I was just miserable. Again, it did give me time to like kind of think about myself and think about me now, and I definitely think I've changed. I became like 1,000,000% more social than I was before, and obviously I love talking, so that was a big thing. But like and then just another thing was like, I'm like losing my train of thought slowly. Yeah, it's just not being able to like talk to people is such a hard thing, and so I just moved to Doral last year, not in maybe like no September, ish, for the start of the school year, and I was living in Boca for most of the time, and it was that transition of like not making friends. I stuck with all of my friends from like earlier middle school, and I didn't make any friends that year. So I come here, I have to make new friends, obviously, and it was such a struggle, and I was so, like, I was not used to making friends just on a whim. Like, everyone came back, and they kind of just stuck to, like, the people they already knew. So it was very hard for me to just, like, be able to speak to people. And I still have troubles with it now. It's, like, kind of that expectation going into conversations, like, they are going to hate me, and that is it. And it still applies to me even now. But I definitely think I've had an easier time. But it is just that feeling of like, I haven't spoken to people in such a long time. But it is refreshing being able to like socialize. It is such a refreshing thing. But yeah, it's like, just isolation is, it drives you crazy. And I know some people in my life that are still kind of like stuck inside and isolated. And it's a really negative thing. It has a really negative impact on them.
Thank you for sharing. Anybody else over here? It's okay.
I really wanted to talk about the lack of social connection that we sort of suffered through the pandemic. Also, really, not only yes, it affected us mentally with not having trouble how to make friends, but also, at least for me, the biggest thing with not being able to be like in a classroom and be around people was my lack of motivation, and how that affected my work ethic. I usually, at least freshman year, I was very on top of my schoolwork, did everything, by the book, had everything done before everything. But the pandemic sort of gave me an excuse because there was no one else to push me. If you understand, like a lot of us gain this motivation by just being around people, like just the best friends who push you to do your best. They weren't around necessarily, and you lose connection, and so at least for me, it gave me an excuse to slack off, procrastinate, and procrastination became my worst enemy during the pandemic. So I think that was one of the biggest changes, and it's still a struggle because even now I still have that. I still can come up with that excuse. Take a 10-minute break, go on your phone. You've been working all day, and it still gets to the point where it's like, no, wait, a 10 minutes turns into 30 minutes turns into an hour. And it's very difficult because, yes, we have finally transitioned back into our normal social routine, but it's still difficult, at least I know for some people that are still struggling to get back into the groove of things. So I think that's a really big thing with losing our social connection. It was just like, it just affected everyone's work ethic.
Yeah.
So.
For me, at least, I'm the type of person who really tries to find or make the best out of every situation that we're in. So at the beginning of the pandemic, it was interesting for me because I went through, the beginning was the worst for me. Unlike many people who like the beginning was like the best, like, oh, we're gonna miss school for like 2 weeks. That's so great. For me, the beginning was the worst part of it, because I had been coming off of such a high from having a great freshman year. I had transferred schools and I had gotten into St. Brendan, and it was a great year for me. I was in sports. Pandemic got there midway our track season. I was making friends. I was doing well in school. So going home was like, oh, okay, now what do I do?
Yeah.
So for me, at least, it was difficult at the beginning. And then summer hit. And I got up one day and I remember telling myself that I refused to allow myself to be in my bed and to be sad, and that I needed to do something with my life, even if I couldn't go outside. And my family is a very dispersed family in the sense that we're all busy all the time and we're all kind of doing our own thing, but the pandemic really brought us together. And I got to spend a lot more time connecting with my younger brother and my older brother before he left to college, because pandemic year was his senior year.
Wow.
That's after that summer passed, he had a whole year here, but I got to connect with him a little more before he left. And then that year, my sophomore year, I never went back to school. I was virtual the entire year. And that year was kind of like a year of like redefining and like rediscovering myself, for me at least personally. I got to work on so many things that I had ideas, but I never had the time to sit down and work on myself. And now I did, because I was home and I was doing my schoolwork, but I had a focus of, okay, school, this I want to do, I'm going to spend time. And it was kind of like a routine that I established for myself. And so in a way, the first 3 months of the pandemic were kind of really bad for me, but after that, things got a lot better. And ironically, the pandemic gave me my best friends, because I met my best friends. I had known them from freshman year, but we hadn't really spoken until the pandemic, and we didn't hang out until the pandemic. And then suddenly, like, I had this amazing friend group. And then at the end of the year, sophomore year, which was last year, I decided that if, like, it was kind of like at the end of an era, the end of the pandemic, trying to go back to normal also meant the end of my time, like, at St. Brendan, transferring to SAS. So it was like everything was a new beginning for me. And in a way, I got to go into that new beginning with that, like, rediscovery that I'd experienced the last year through the pandemic.
That's awesome. It's great, a different experience. Anybody else?
So for me, the pandemic, during the beginning of it, it was simple of just turning in the work that they would assign you and not even having to attend these Zoom meetings because they weren't really obligated or required. But during last year, my junior year, we would have to be in a Zoom call, but over time, you really much pay less attention to the class. If you ask me anything about last year and what I learned, it was probably little to nothing, to be honest. And also your grades just start going down, and you see the regression from the previous years that you had in your academic achievements, and then the years that you had in pandemic.
Mhm.
You can see the difference and how much it really affects you. And now, due to, well, I'm in my senior year, you know, senioritis is a thing. Even with senioritis and all that, my grades are still, they're way better than what they were last year. They're honestly, it's just very overwhelming how much you had to try your hardest and without any motivation, without anyone trying, you know, to support you besides, you know, your parents asking you to do your homework, to actually be able to do these homeworks.
Yeah.
Especially since now in high school, your teachers aren't there to baby you. Like, if you do your work, you do your work. If you don't, then that's on you.
Yeah.
They're getting you ready for, you know, your future.
Yeah, for university. Awesome. Well, I think this was such a great discussion about the pandemic and the different experiences that everybody felt. And so it'll lead me to my last two questions, and we'll kind of take them two in one. I want to ask Beatrice if she has anything to add to this, and then I will, I'll kind of ask you guys, which was part of the conversation, my last two questions.
So the pandemic, the first question that Christy asked is like, how do you define mental health, right? This was definitely one of those challenges and changes that came in our lives. A big test, right, of how is it that we are going to handle that situation with the skills that we have. And I think, you know, you heard from all different ones. I think one of the biggest lessons is we are here to be with other people, not to be alone and to isolate. And one of the big symptoms in a lot of, you know, different conditions is isolation, right? We were obligated here to be isolated, and it's like, how do we handle this now when it's imposed on us? And then we realize, hey, I'm a little introvert, but I realize that I do need people and I need to have that contact with other human beings. It was really scary for us in the clinic what happened with the pandemic, because then we started having these kids that were 10, 11 years old, completely addicted to that screen, but we started seeing things that were even more interesting that I had not seen in the past, which was addicted to pornography at 9, 10, and 11 years old. Okay, so the sexual predators that, you know, when I was younger, they were physical and they would show things, you know, when you walked around. Now they were on the screen, and they were attacking from all different areas, these children. And so here comes mom with a patient, with a kid that has 15,000 pictures in his computer. His computer couldn't hold anything else because all the videos, and so that was something that was scary for us. We were like, whoa. So that was one of the things that we were seeing more and more that I personally had not seen before in the clinic. So I think it made us realize many things, right? How scary, how wonderful a computer is, because yes, it was the way that we kept connected, but also how scary it can be with the material that it can be there. How important it is for parents to do the job as parents and to be, educated as much as possible, so we know where to guide our children, and when this happens, it's not to so much take it away, because we're not going to take away that element in your lives anymore. But us to be educated and to educate you of what you can find there and what can be good for you and not be good for you, right? To us, it was very, very scary to see a 9 and a 10-year-old that just, when the mother realized this child had been spending 10 and 11 hours on that computer just looking at, at videos and pornography.
Yeah.
So,
So here's where, and that's a good segue too into what my close off is for you guys is, how did you find help? What was your outlet of help, right? Was it your friends? Was it your family? Was it a professional? And what do you suggest? Like, what is your suggestion to how we can do it better as parents, as professionals, as a school district? Where are we failing? Where are we failing you, if at all? Maybe you don't feel that we are, but where are we failing you? Okay, we're gonna go off. I guess no one here is hungry. No, I'm just kidding. This is very important. This is probably the most important part of this discussion. Well, this all has been very, very enlightening, and the discussion has been very important. But let's start on this side and then come this way this time. But tell me, those two things, what was your outlet? Where do you find help, and how can we do it better? And speak to us like if, as parents, as professionals, as your teachers, as the school district. Okay, sounds good.
Well, for me personally, since my freshman year, 4 years ago, I've always had the same classmates. We're all in this program, Cambridge program. So we're all having the same courses, same classes over the years that we had. So for me, I knew everyone in my class. I was pretty close to everyone. So fortunately, I had my friends to back me up, to be able to talk to them, and they supported me. So through that, I was able to overcome the pandemic and what was affecting me in such a way. And for a parent, I would say they should take, or they could try to take a more an approach that is more like careful in such a way, like to approach and be like, I don't know where you're going through, but I'm here for you if you need anything, and not try forcing them to do something such as their homework, or try helping them in general, such as if they need help with the homework, such as if they have a Spanish class or something, try helping them, try being there for them, even if it's simple, even if you don't understand it, be right next to them, or try helping them even on a computer. Technology is always there for us, good and bad ways.
Awesome. Anybody else?
I feel like the hardest part of the pandemic was going in, not only for the students, but also for the teachers. Like, all of a sudden you have a class that doesn't want to talk to you. You're just talking to a bunch of names, because a lot of people didn't want to have their camera on because they were socially insecure or whatever it was. And the case was that no one learned anything. And I feel like that was the hardest thing for everyone to come to terms with. Like, teachers weren't teaching the way they used to teach. They had to get used to this whole new method. They had to learn how to use computers. A lot of teachers from older generations didn't know how to use Zoom, so classes would be canceled a lot of the times because they couldn't get their internet to work, or they didn't know how to work the system, the new system we were faced with. And then students no longer wanted to participate in class or go to class, or they didn't like the teacher because they didn't teach the way that they were used to. So it was a lot to get used to. So as soon as we were able to go back in person, I was like, count me in, I'll be the first one there. Because I saw, myself, I wasn't trying hard enough. I wasn't doing my homework. I basically gave up. This is a common theme, none of us were motivated. And I feel like the students, just as much as the teachers, were unmotivated. And that, strained everyone's academics. Test scores went down, everything went down. And we all came to terms that we need to go back, and that's when everything kind of started moving. And slowly classes filled up, less people were on Zoom, and that definitely impacted us positively. Now we have we're kind of getting back into the routine, like Peta had said, of this is the new norm. And yes, a lot of us still rely on like the Zooms for like quick stuff, but the classroom work goes on in a classroom where we're face to face, we feed off of each other's energy, and it's no longer you're just staring at a screen with someone's name that you don't even know what they look like.
Right.
And I feel like that definitely affected us.
For me, my biggest support system, I think, throughout the pandemic came in the form of my mom, my friends, and the amount of times that I spent, the amount of time I spent reading, probably, like in books. It was kind of like an escape from, that was my version of an escape from the reality, and then I'd come back and it'd be like, okay, well, I have my friends that I've made throughout the pandemic. I have my mom, who I feel like it's very it's not highly recognized how also adults struggled through the pandemic. It's not just us, although we took the brunt of it because we didn't have that experience or that maturity. It was also like we're all in this together, even at my house. So we basically leaned on each other for support. And as for how I feel as though the district can do better in regards to helping us, I feel as though the thing that kids struggle with the most is articulating how they're feeling. They know how they feel. They know that they're struggling. They can tell their parents, I don't feel well, but they can't tell you, oh, I am feeling like overwhelmed because I have XYZ amount of things to do. I don't know how to do them. They don't know how to properly express their concerns in regards to how they're feeling about things. And if you can't articulate that about yourself, you can't stand up for yourself and you can't ask for help. You can just say, I need help because I don't know how to articulate myself, but then how do I start helping you if I don't know what to help you with?
Right.
So I think that as a part of the social emotional learning days that we have, because I know at least here at SAS we have social emotional learning days the first Wednesday of every month, I think.
Yeah.
It's important to teach kids tools or maybe enable them the ability to express their emotions properly, because once they're able to stand up for themselves in regards to how they're feeling, it's a lot easier to be able to address the concerns and help them with what they need.
So this is really interesting to me, if I can interrupt here. That makes a lot of sense. And the crazy part is, okay, we all know how to speak, right? So it's like, when I don't know how to articulate it, right? So are you just afraid to say what you're feeling? Or are you, or is it, could it be that, I'm asking in general terms.
Yeah.
Or is it that, are you afraid to recognize what you're feeling and say it? Or are you afraid of getting a reaction that's not favorable to what you're feeling for help?
I think
Does that make sense?
I think both of those are very valid, but I think it's more like I don't know how to say it.
But you don't know how to say it because it's words, right? And at this point, you should be able to say the word.
Right.
But is it the you can't even describe it yourself? You don't know what you're feeling. Like you can't describe.
Yeah, you can't describe.
I don't know what it is.
For me,
Right. For like.
That's very interesting
Yeah,
to me. That's why
I see it like, well, at least in myself, I'm a very articulate person because I've spent a lot of time like reading and like talking. So
we got that.
So for me, it's not that difficult, but I sometimes see it with my classmates. Like I have a conversation with Kyle, and Kyle's trying to tell me something, and I'm like, Kyle, I don't know what you're trying to tell me, and he'll be like, okay, well, this is how I can explain it, and I'm like, okay, then you're feeling like this, and he's like, oh, that's the word for it.
Okay.
They don't know, like you can't pinpoint it. You can describe.
Sometimes a feeling is so overwhelming that you don't
That you
know how
don't
to explain it.
exactly.
And what you're feeling right now, it feels so big.
And I see it
feels so
like,
major.
yeah, I see it a lot. Like my little brother who has anxiety, I see it a lot. He's really good about being able to tell me about how he feels because I've kind of like helped him with that. But kids they either don't know what reaction that's gonna cause if they tell their parents, especially in Hispanic households where it's kind of like a nuance to like mental health. Like, oh, how do I tell my dad that I'm kind of feeling overwhelmed and sad all the time, and it's the where it crosses into mental health is when it's impacting you day to day.
Right.
So then how do I tell my parents that I'm feeling this way to the extent at which it's getting to this point and I need help?
So that's why I ask, right? Because you can say it. It may not be the right words, but to express it. And I think where, as a parent, right, I'm thinking like as a parent or as a leader in the community, it's like our reactions, parents, like, get over it, real life. Like, this is real life, and life gets harder, right? That's like, I see everybody nodding, because that's the reaction as parents. No, it's true. Listen, I remember too, like, we all have anxiety to a certain point, and And some of us may react without realizing. We think we're making you grow up and like reface what reality is. And it's like, it's not the way to handle it, right? Because you're obviously feeling something really deep that that you're like crying for help to a certain extent, right? And you know, sometimes, and I want you guys to be a little graceful with your parents when they do that, right? Because they were in a different generation. Right? But we also have to understand it. And we have to recognize it. But
There's
it's
like that
hard.
gap.
It's
Yeah.
hard, right? It's a big gap. And so that's why I try, right, Beatrice? I try to educate the parents a lot, right? And I'm a new parent. My son's 6, okay? But I feel like I'm in the middle, right? I was here not too long ago. I have a 6-year-old. I'm a parent now, so I see the perspective of a parent. Like, I find myself telling my son things that my mom used to tell me. I used to be like, oh, you know? Like, you know, why? But everybody else's mom lets them. Well, I'm not everybody else's mom. You know, my mom used to say it to me, and I was like, you know. So I get it from the parent's perspective, but I also get it from your perspective. It's a different world. So it's hard, and you can't, in an essence, parents watching us, you can't tell your kids, grow up. This is a real life. This is reality, right? I get it. I'm on board with you. I get it. Reality is hard. Real life is hard. Some of you have it easy, really, truthfully, to what's coming. But it's not the way to help you grow up, and it's not the way to help you express your feelings. Am I on the right track? So, I'll let her kind of talk about that a little bit. I see a lot of people wanting to talk here, so we're going to continue this conversation because I think it's really important to have. And I hear you. I want you to understand that we hear you, and we understand. And you know, I think that you put it so well on understanding that your emotions could be so big that you can't even put them into words. So we have to find a way to how we express those, you know, in a way that people can understand how we can help. So I want Beatrice to chime in a little bit, and then we're going to keep going. Is that okay? Yeah. Okay.
So one of the basic foundations that we teach any teen or children that come in is that they need to understand the relationship between thoughts and emotions, right? We tell them that there is a relationship between what we think and how we feel. And it's not just a relationship, you know, no, there is a chemical reaction, right? That when we think in a positive way, our body is producing certain neurochemicals. It's producing serotonin and dopamine and happy hormones. And then when that happens, then we kind of tied into another happy thought, and then more serotonin and happy hormones, and then it creates that very healthy loop, right, that we would all want to stay in.
If I can put that into an actual example, when you notice you have a really good day, you're happy all day. You're like, I had such a good day. I had such a good day. But when you had a bad day at the beginning, your day stays bad. Right?
And we can change it.
Exactly.
We
That's
can
what I was going to
choose to change that, right? But if we
Gotta learn.
start like that, and then what happened? Our body produced all that adrenaline and, you know, and the cortisol and the, you know, anxious neurochemicals, and then that produced another thought that made you feel that way, and then that's why you have, you know, the day that goes on like that. But I think one of the things that we really need to educate, and that's what we do actually with Healthy Connections and Trying Steps, it's helping you understand that you do have a choice, actually. And as crazy as it sounds for some people, oh, happiness is a choice. Happiness is a choice. Because every single one of you here can change the way you think, okay? And we may not have, you know, the clear, you know,
Exactly
words
how.
here and what are the things that I'm going to, but that's why you come to somebody. And we actually are trying to use a different word in the clinic, and it's not so much mental health. We're trying to use emotional literacy. Emotional literacy is basically giving you some steps of what is it that you need to, how is it that you need to think. And if I already know there is a connection, you know, and that belief has also a power in this whole thing, so how can I change myself? With all the changes with the pandemic and all the different things that we've had, one of the things that we decided to do this summer actually was to offer an emotional literacy camp for kids, right? And we started with teens, preteens and teens, but their parents now say, oh, but I want, you know, my 7-year-old. Of course we can teach a 7-year-old also that there is a relationship. And I have a beautiful phrase that I always say to, you know, used to say to my daughter when she was younger, thoughts become things, keep them beautiful. Thoughts become things, keep them beautiful. Thoughts become things in our body, we already know, right? Changes our chemical, you know, production, and it becomes things outside of us as well, right? So understanding that connection is something that is going to give you more power to be able to express it, right?
Yeah.
So that's something that, if anything you wanted to take from here in terms of one tool that I could give you, and there's another one that somebody mentioned there, was also gratitude. So first, make sure that you understand you are in control of what you think. And yes, sometimes we get, we get these ideas that just come to us, but how long they stay with you is your choice, okay?
Yeah.
So you can very easily say, wait a minute, this is something that I need to reject now, and I need to think this other way. And then the other thing, which I heard from some of you, was gratitude. Believe it or not, when we are in a space of gratitude, what we're doing is we're focusing on the things that are going well in our lives. So if we're focusing on things that are going well in our lives, we are telling our body to produce the dopamine and the serotonin and the happy hormones, right? We're not looking for what's lacking, we're looking for what's positive. And when we're in that state, then what happens is that you start opening doors of possibilities, and you start seeing this opportunity and that other opportunity. So gratitude is an exercise that I recommend highly when it comes if you want a tool in terms of mental health. You end your day with a gratitude list, and I'm going to give you guys something here that I often give to my teams, is you make a GLAD list, G-L-A-D. A GLAD list, you're going to take G, something that you take for granted, that you should be grateful for, and this is how you should end your day. L stands for something that you learned that day that you should be grateful for. A, something that you achieved that day that you should be grateful for. And this is something that delighted you that day that you should be grateful for. And do that exercise, that GLAD list. At the end of the day, when you go to sleep, I can assure you that it's gonna have a great impact in your next day. Okay, and if you start the day also just thinking that way, it's gonna be easy to create that positive loop that we talked about.
And I think that if I can add to that, this is something that you learn like multiplying. Really, it's a practice. You learn it like multiplying. It doesn't just happen. I know it's hard to say or it's easy to say and it's hard for you to accept. It's a hard pill to swallow to say, I control my thoughts, right? And I control my emotions, right? Because you're like, well, that person made me feel that, and I'm entitled to feel that way. Sure, but are you going to let that person let you feel that way? You are the one that's going to create that, right? We stay in that state of mind for a certain time, and there's tons of experts that will kind of talk to you about it, but you need to learn it. In reading, you learn it by reading certain books, by listening to certain podcasts. It's something that we learn and have to put into practice. It's not something that just happens naturally for us. It's just like learning how to multiply, learning how to do those things, and how to be able to accept that we control our thoughts.
It's mental fitness.
So yeah, it's mental fitness, exactly. So that's really where I think this generation has learned to accept and try and incorporate more, to learn. And I tell people all the time too, I'm like, I'm sad. Well, I hate to say this, and it may be kind of tough pill to swallow, but you choose to be sad. You have to choose to be happy. You got to wake up every morning and choose to be happy, as hard as that may be. And then you have to practice it. And then you have to practice it. And then, things fall into, and it's okay to have a sad day and recognize it, right? And recognize I'm sad, but why are you sad? Let's identify. Identify why you're sad, why you're anxious, and that way you have something to work upon. So that would just be my little two-take. And I'm preaching what I do. Because I'm like you, I feel the same things all the time too, I'm a public figure, and there's people that don't like me. That's just a sad reality. They may not even know me, and they don't like me. And there's people that like me, and they give me all the likes, and they make me feel good. But there's a lot that don't, and so you have to, and there's a lot, there's learning that I control that emotion, okay? So I want to come, you guys have something to say here? Okay, let's come here, and then, because my stomach's really gonna start getting loud.
What I want to add on is that I got my parents were, my mom mostly, she's the one that helped me through the pandemic and my mental state. But with my dad, not so much, because I think he is from an older generation. And I think the problem with older generations is that they judge you a lot when you ask them for help. Like, I would be like, I think I have to get help. And he would be like, no, you go already, just give yourself a week and then you'll be fine. And I think that's a huge thing, especially in our community, because they're used to not getting help. They're used to like solving it themselves, or like avoiding the emotions at all and bottling all that. And like after you grow up and those emotions show. So it's really important for parents to not judge their kids when they need help. So yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
I think like so what helped me was, and it's like such a simple thing, but I had therapy, and that was such it had like such a stark difference, because not only did I get to talk to someone for like a prolonged amount of time, which I wasn't used to doing unless it was like my friends on a call in which I was talking about like stupid things, but if it wasn't therapy, then I would have to say I'm a very creative person, so music was such a big thing, being able to connect to certain ideas, and still music helps me now. I do theater, so musical theater is such like a big outlet. So it's honestly being able to talk and being able to talk to people is such a good way. And then the reason why therapy was such a big thing instead of like my parents or my friends goes into like kind of the way people can improve, and it is listening without making assumptions is such a big thing. Because, for example, and I know this doesn't happen everywhere, but I know in a lot of schools, like, for example, you'll go to a counselor and you'll talk about feeling upset, and the first thing they'll do is pull up your grades. And sometimes it's hard to see the correlation, I guess, from, like, the standpoint of, like, a student. So it's kind of making that assumption. So it's like, or, like, you'll talk to, for example, your parents or your friends, and you'll be like, I'm feeling this way. And they'll be like, oh, it's because of this and that. Like, just completely, like, things. Especially with parents, I think it's like, it's because you're on your phone. It's because you're not sleeping well. It's because you're not eating well. It's because, and it's instead of really taking the time to understand and listen, it's more just, like, pinpointing it to different things and making assumptions based off the things. Like, it's because of that friend. It's because of, and that often creates like a barrier that kind of dissolves the trust you have to talk to that person. And so the reason therapy worked so much for me was because I was talking to someone who doesn't know me. They don't have anything to pinpoint it to. They can't just be like, it's because of this and that, because they don't know me. So it's like kind of like an unbiased source that was able to talk to me, and they're also professional, so you know. But I think it's just that listening and understanding. And it's often, I guess for parents, I'm assuming it's often hard because you've seen them grown up. You know, you've seen their behavior. You know how they think and who they are as a person. But at the end of the day, and I think this goes also to like articulating, everyone feels feelings differently. The way I feel happy is going to be different from like how you guys feel happy. And that becomes there will always be a barrier with an understanding. And I think part of people's jobs is to kind of break that barrier and, you know, put yourself in the position of that person. And you can use, you know, the stuff that is happening around them to understand how they're feeling. So instead of, you know, blaming, for example, someone feeling the way they do on a phone, understand how maybe the phone has to do with that problem instead of just making it, that's the reason we need to get rid of it.
Yeah. So if I can add to that real quick, and then we'll process this way, you know, and it just kind of hit me when you were talking about it. For parents, I think in many cases it could be when we try and make that a assumption, or like it's like we're trying to find the solution. We think we're trying to help you find the solution by pointing it to something. So it, you know, like, oh, it's because this and this. You know, sometimes sitting back, reflecting, and listening to some parents may be a realization of a certain failure. You know, because seeing your child not happy or seeing your child going through a hard time is almost like it's like if you have to recognize almost a failure. Like, what did I do wrong that you're feeling that way? I'm trying to put it in a perspective as a parent for you guys. Absolutely. You know, it's like, oh my God, what did I do wrong that my child is feeling this way? And it may have been that they did nothing wrong. It's about you, but But to the parent, they may try and find excuses or solutions for you because like, well, I don't want to accept that I'm a failure. I'm perfect. And I was a great parent. I've always been there. And it may not even be about that, but you know, that's something to maybe understand, to tell your parent, hey, this has nothing to do with you. You're a great parent. I'm not feeling well.
And like listening, like I think it's really listening. I think, again, making assumptions and trying to find solutions based off those assumptions is so easy. But I feel like, and especially, and this goes again back to like therapy, is like having someone listen to you and just listen to you without pinpointing it to different things, just listening, just not even unbiased, just listening to you. And again, as some people mentioned before, even if they don't understand, it's just you have this person, and this can even be your parents, your friends, someone maybe you care about, having them listen to you and try to understand you and accept that about you, and just listening and not trying to come up with solutions, not trying to come up even like, because sometimes we don't ask for it and people give solutions and it's not the greatest. But just having someone listen to you helps so much. And
Thank you for sharing. Yes.
No, I want to add that maybe parents don't realize that by saying stuff like, oh, you're on your phone, it's because you're on your phone, you don't go out. It's like they're invalidating our feelings.
Their feeling,
Yeah, so it makes you feel
worse.
Overwhelmed. Yeah. Because you're like, oh, then it's my fault. And maybe it is, but like, I want you to help me.
Yeah.
You know? And
will you let us help you?
Sure.
Sometimes parents, we feel like you won't let us help you.
And even our teachers, like, you go out and be like, I feel super overwhelmed, like I can't go anymore, and they're like, okay, try harder. Like, I need you to maybe don't go out of your way to help me, but like,
we're all learning, right? I think that's something we can all agree on, that we're all always learning. You guys didn't come with a manual. I know my son didn't come with a manual, okay? He springs things on me sometimes and I'm like, Beatrice? I'm like, who do I call for help? 911 help, like parental help. Because it's, you know, it's like you guys are, and no, happiness for one is not happiness for another. You're all different. You all have different personalities. You all were created in, you know, uniquely in God's perfect, you know, way, in my opinion. Each of you were created the way you were supposed to be created. And it's different for each case. And so that's something that is hard to learn to deal with as a parent, as a professional, as, you know, as a leader in the community, as a friend, as a sister. You know, it's difficult to how do we be the best that we could be. And sometimes it's just listening. It's just listening.
That, like, adding on, I feel like sometimes parents can come off as closed-minded. So when you express your feelings to them, you get a negative reaction out of it, causing you to want to, like, bottle everything up and just, like, not talk to them about it.
Or only talk to your friends.
And I found, like, creative outlets were, like, really good ways to, like, express your emotions, like journaling. Like, I feel like it helps you understand what you're feeling and what you're going through. Or, like, painting or, like, music. I feel like those are, like, the best options if you're a creative person.
If you're creative, yeah. You don't want to see my painting.
No, because some parents see, like, getting help as something bad. Like, getting help is weak. Because if you can do it yourself, then you can't do
We're
it.
changing that. We're changing that stigma. I think, and you guys are a big part of that. We're changing that.
I had to talk to my mom and be like, I need help. And she was, like, open to it. So now I'm getting therapy. So it's getting better.
Awesome.
Like,
good.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Yes. Good. But that's great. You spoke up, and that's exactly what we need. Yes. Yes. Hold on. I think we want.
Oh, I want to say something.
Of course.
Yes. Definitely. I would like to say that I think it is really important for parents to show their kids that they have support at home. Confidence and self-love goes a long way. It's really important when it comes to success. And that, I think that starts at home. When you have your parents telling you that you are loved, that you are supported, that you are important, that you're good at these things. Maybe not the best at these other things, but you're good at some stuff. My parents have been in my corner since I can remember. I struggled since I was pretty little, since like school felt like a punishment because I would always get picked on for being different. And they were always there. I got home and they were there to tell me that everything was fine and that everything was going to be okay. When I came out to my parents, they took classes on like LGBTQ stuff, so I felt like I was being supported. My parents have always been there to let me know that I'm good at this and I'm good at that, and I'm a good kid overall. And that helped me get where I wanted to go. When I got to school and I felt like I was different, that I was not the best at math or that I was alone, I knew that I could do better, that I could be the best at something because my parents raised me to believe that. And it's really important for any kid to feel that kind of love at home because it starts there.
Well, your parents get a huge round of applause.
Yes, they do.
That's beautiful. And that's what we want. We want parents to be involved, because it's hard. And every child is different, like I just said. And so what we try and encourage, you're okay, can we get a tissue over here? And so what we want is, we don't want parents to feel excluded. We want them to be involved because what they want is for you to be the best you that you can be. I don't think there's one parent that says, I want the worst for my child. I want the best for my child. And the best that they can be is be involved in your life and help you become the best version of you. And what we want to encourage parents to do is to find a way to help your child be the best version of them. And unfortunately, for a long time, I'm going to say something that may sound a little unpopular, and I don't want you guys to take it this wrong way, but a lot of times, society wants us to push the ones that we love the most away. Or we feel that society is telling us to push the ones we love away the most. And I think instead what we need to be doing is having the conversation, because I can guarantee you there is no parent that wants the worst for their child. They want the best, and it may not be the same best that you think is best. They will come around to it. It's about working together to get there, okay? And so your story is beautiful, absolutely beautiful, and I love your parents. So
I would like to say one last thing. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I'm destroying the microphone. I just wanted to say, again, self-love and confidence goes a long way.
Yes.
And parents have a lot to do with it, but sometimes it has to be you who starts that.
Yeah.
And sometimes
But they instilled that in you at some point.
Yes. Sometimes
some of us are born with it, but that's nurtured.
You have to grow that. You have to
Yeah.
work on it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're going through a rough patch and it sounds rough, but you have to get yourself out of it.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's something you learn.
Yes. Learn and practice.
Yes. So for a long time, I was not confident at all. Like I wouldn't speak in a classroom at all.
Yeah.
And I started working on that, and now I'm here.
Yeah.
So that is something you develop. That's something you have to.
Yeah. Awesome.
Anyway.
Thank you. So where else do we want to go here, and then we can wrap it up?
I feel like, again, like as we spoke, having a support system like parents and friends is very important. But then again, we can't single out the teens who live in abusive households or have trouble making friends at school. And I guess like an alternative for that is just try to find an outlet to put your feelings out there. Like, for example, mine is poetry. I write poetry. And I found that it really has helped, like, let my feelings out. I have great parents and I have great friends, but just something else that I don't really have to share with a lot of people is very, like, it has helped a lot.
Absolutely. And we got to say this, right? For kids, teens, or people who feel that they're being abused or don't feel like they have a safe space, there is a place for you. You're not alone. So for those who may be watching who feel that, you're not alone. Find the person that will help, because there's always help. So, it's finding that person that will help. And maybe it's not at home. And that I would say those are the very, very few case scenarios, or the very unfortunate scenarios. But they do exist. Don't get me wrong. Let's be realistic. They do exist. But I would say they're the what's the word? They're the exception. Thank you. That's the word. They're the exception, right? And so we do have to help and try and let those kids know, or those people know, that there is help. So, did you guys want to close anything off there?
Yeah. So basically, like, I completely understand, like, how mental health has to be at equilibrium in order for your body to feel well, and in order for you just to, in general, to strive and to just better yourself in general. For me, a large support system for me is my mom. She's really great. She's really engaged, and she always asks questions. She's never afraid to inquire about anything that she might feel that she might seem that is off about me. And also, like, my friends, it's easier to speak to them about certain like school activities and certain assignments that, that teachers assign. It's easier to just talk to them about things that you know that they could relate to, things that they experience in their day-to-day life as well as you do. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Can I say something? As a teacher to all the students here, just know that our school system is trying to do the best they can to provide the support that you all need. There's always a teacher, there's always a counselor, there's always someone in the school that you have some type of bonding with that teacher that is out there that in that classroom. So know that there is some support, that there are teachers, all of us are willing to be there for you, and that our counselors at the school have also gotten the education about mental health more than ever with this whole COVID pandemic episode that we've had and continue to have to some extent. Know that our counselors are all there available, but and that we're there for you. It's just a matter of trying for you to come to us. We don't know who, but we are there for you in the classroom. And just know that even that teacher that you might say, oh, she doesn't really like me, or maybe she's not there. She's there. We love our job. Just know that we're there because we love our job, and we're there because we care for you. So if mom and dad can't do it, then just know that the teachers are there to provide the help that you need and the assistance.
Thank you. Well, did everybody get to share what they wanted to share? You want to say something? Go ahead. Say it.
I think that, like, for me personally, a big support system in the pandemic was my friends and my mom. But sometimes my mom was like a kind of like a stress inducer at times, but I know it was only for the best that she could. Like definitely in the first quarter of my sophomore year, which was last year, there was definitely a time where I was slacking off, and my mom did not want to see me slacking off because she knows my potential, and I let myself go in a way where I was like, I don't care what day is it? Is it past 10? Do I have to get this assignment done? And my mom kind of was like, you shouldn't think like that. Like, you have to get it done. And there'd be times where it's like, why are you yelling at me? I'm just trying to, like, be a kid. I'm
trying to get through.
Yeah, I'm trying to get through with, like, this year. And, like, this is, like, all new. And I didn't know what to do. And also, that was the most time we ever spent. Because for my entire life, I was at school and she was at work. So the only time we'd get is maybe 2 hours. And then we'd all go to bed or, like, go to do our separate ways.
Yeah.
So definitely that was a thing, and it's like it kind of hindered how much I opened up to her, because I kind of associated her with just like school, and it's definitely now we're starting to break that mold, like recently, of like I'm not just your school, I'm also your mom, and I'm a friend when I need to be, and I'm also your mom when I need to be, and it's kind of like there was a time where I would go to her to be like, hey, I'm not feeling that well, and then it'd become a little joke. And that's when I stopped talking. But now I'm working on it and expressing myself more. And one of the ways I express myself is through dance. So I recently joined the dance team with my mom's permission because she saw that, like, okay, I needed something more than just doing theater. So when she finally let me do the dance team, I experienced this really, like, kind of like this surge of, like, serotonin and dopamine, because I was like, oh my God, I'm doing something I really love. And I was like, and now I have, like, both my parents behind me, because they're both like, if you want to do the dance team, do the dance team, like, awesome. This is your final year in high school. So I definitely think, and also have my friends behind me on that one too. So I'm very happy that, like, I have a strong support system.
Awesome. So guys, everybody got to share what they wanted to share. How do you guys feel? Good? Yeah? You guys were all feeding off of each other's energy. Definitely. So did you guys enjoy this? Yes. Do you think you learned something? Yes? Awesome. Well, I want you guys to know that you have a support system in us. We are your cheerleaders. Anything that we can do to help you, always turn to your parents first and your family first. And then if you don't find what you need there, ask, a counselor or a teacher, a friend, or, anybody in a leadership role that can help. Obviously your friends are people you can confide in, but understand your friend may be going through the same situation you're going through. May not be good for you guys to be talking to each other about certain things if you're looking for help. So I always say it's good to talk to your friends, but understand that sometimes you may need somebody who's been through that experience to talk to. And there's always there's mentor groups, there's great ways to find help and resources just to help you grow. and evolve and develop. And, you know, if someone's already been through the hard part for you, I always say if I don't have to hit that wall, I don't want to hit it. You know, sometimes it's good to hit it because you learn from it. But if you don't have to hit the wall, don't hit the wall. Learn from others. So you guys all have your Chick-fil-A in front of you. Thank you once again to our sponsors, Chick-fil-A, Citrus Digital, who is streaming for us, and Herf Jones. And thank you to each of you. You guys were such great students, young adults. You guys really opened up, and that means the world to me. We want to be able to give you this platform to be able to express yourself so we could learn. I know I learned a lot. I'm super grateful for being able to do this. I'm super grateful that I am your board member and that I'm a leader in this community that can help you guys and can, you know, also help parents and help and provide such an important resource and tools for parents to help you guys become the best that you can be. So thank you all very much for allowing me to do this. I appreciate you guys. Give yourselves a round of applause. And with that, we say goodbye to social media. Thank you for being good for us today. We appreciate everybody who got to watch, and for those of you who will watch us later, continue to follow our social media platforms for all the great information that you get from District 5.
Thank you.
All right. Yes. Thank you so much. Ya, Jairo, estamos...